All right, hello to everybody or anyone who will wind up watching this thought today. Over the last month or so, every Wednesday we posted a different video, somebody from church offering a thought, what we call a little pick-me-up Devo thought. And we're getting a variety of people to do that. And this week it's my turn to offer the Devo thought. And there's two reasons why. One is because I was out of town, so I didn't preach this last Sunday, so I thought this would be a good time to offer the Devo thought. And the other one is, you could probably tell I'm not in Texas right now. You can see some of the leaves changing colors. You can see the mountain off in the background over there. I don't know how great you can see it on this phone, but it's red, yellow, all kinds of colors because it's October in Vermont. So I thought, why not record the Devo talk while you're here in Vermont? But I'm also holding the phone with my hand, as you can probably tell, because I have nowhere to prop it up. So sorry that my face is so close to the camera right now. I did want you to see the beautiful looking trees. All right, here's my Devo thought for this lesson, for this week. And it's going to be focused on Jesus, obviously, because I love to talk about Jesus. And I'm going to talk a little bit about this Follow Me series that I've been doing since about midway through September. But first, I want to talk about questions. I love good, thought-provoking questions. If you've ever talked with me for a while, I will probably ask you questions about your life, about you, to get to know you a little bit. And most people ask typical questions like, how's it going? How are you doing? If you're having a conversation with somebody, you may say, how's your day been? Or what did you do today? We ask questions like that just to get to know somebody, learn more about them, see what's really going on. If you really care about somebody, you may ask questions because you really care about how they're going to answer that. A question that maybe you've thought of by this point is, why am I in Vermont? I don't think I've already said that yet, so I will tell you why I'm in Vermont. Because I am about to perform a wedding about 2 hours from now, out here in this meadow somewhere. And then if you wanted to dig a little deeper, you might ask, but why did you accept the offer to fly to Boston, Massachusetts, and then drive 3 hours to Vermont? Not just because it looks awesome out here, but the reason why is because there's a very good friend of mine that's getting married, and I wanted to be here to support him. And he asked me to do the wedding. So I said yes, because it's worth it. Because he's a good friend. It was worth coming over here and being a part of this significant moment in his life. When we first moved to Pine Tree 3.5 years ago, there's a few conversations that I had with people. And occasionally somebody would ask, why did you decide to come to Pine Tree? Which I thought was a great question. And the people that asked me that were really interested in what made you and your family and your wife decide to accept the invitation to move to Longview to be a part of this church. And it was a great question. It made me think, and I wanted to give an honest answer. And the honest answer was that it seemed like an answer to prayer. This church seemed like a good fit. I was really drawn into the 7 commitments, the vision. That was very compelling to me. I wanted to be a part of a church with a vision. Our daughter had not started kindergarten yet. And so we knew if we were going to make a move, we probably should do it before they started school. So those were reasons why we decided to come to Pine Tree. The reason I'm pointing that out, and the question about why I'm in Vermont, just because I'm talking about how questions are great conversation starters, great way to get to know somebody better. But really, if you pay attention to Jesus, pay attention as you read through the Gospels, pay attention to the times when Jesus asks questions. I think Jesus, he was the master teacher, right? Jesus knew how to ask good questions. One of my favorite questions that Jesus asks is in John chapter 5. There's a guy who's been outside of the temple, been an invalid for, I think, 38 years. And Jesus walks up to the guy and he says, do you want to get well? Which, if you took that question at face value, you may think, well, of course he wants to get well. He can't walk. He needs some sort of a miracle. But if you look a little deeper in John chapter 5 at that question that Jesus asks, he's not just asking an obvious question. What Jesus is asking is, Do you really care enough to get past this problem, to get better? And if there's a sin habit in your life or an addiction, that's a great question that you might find God asking you is, do you really want to get well? So you see, if you pay attention to the questions that Jesus asks, you can find meaning and application for your own life. In Mark chapter 5, Jesus asked the question to the demoniac in the tombs. He asked him this question, what is your name? And the guy answers and says, my name is Legion. But that is a great question too, because I think what Jesus is trying to do with that question, what is your name, is he's trying to dig deeper, and he's trying to figure out or help that guy figure out who he really is and remind him that there is a person inside there and the demons don't have to be in control. And then later on in Mark chapter 5, there's a woman who'd been suffering with this problem of bleeding for 12 years. And then she touches the edge of Jesus's garment and she's healed. And Jesus stops, this huge crowd is around him, and he said, who touched my clothes? And the disciples were like, why are you asking that? Because there's hundreds of people around. And he said, no, who touched me? And the reason that he's asking that is not just because he's concerned that, well, who did I heal for whatever reason. The reason he's asking, who touched my clothes? Who did I heal? Because he wanted to do more than just heal this lady physically. He wanted to kind of reinstate her into society and to life. So just in Mark 5, John chapter 5, you see these questions that Jesus asks. And they're great questions, and we need to pay attention when Jesus asks questions. And you can easily flip the question around on yourself and do some self-reflection. So now I'll get to this part. Sorry, I'm spinning you around. I do want you to be able to see this beautiful scenery though. All right. In the sermon series I've been preaching, this Follow Me sermon series, I've done 3 so far. And in all 3 sermons, the application, the main takeaway point is really just a question. The first one comes from John chapter 1. I think it's verse 38. I left my Bible in the grass over there somewhere, so I'm just going from memory here. That was the first sermon I did in this Follow Me series. And the question was, Jesus turns to these 2 disciples. One of them is Andrew. The other one is unnamed. I think it's John. And in that scenario, they start following Jesus. And Jesus turns to them and he says, what are you looking for? Or what do you seek? And that was your takeaway question. That was your application question. That first sermon, because Jesus wasn't just asking them, hey, what are you looking for? Like, are you guys lost? Do you need help finding where you're going? Jesus was asking them a question to provoke deeper thought. Like, what are you looking for as you follow me? Are you looking for a Pharisee, somebody with a correct interpretation of the law? Are you looking for a zealot, somebody who wants to overthrow the Romans? And what are you looking for in a rabbi? And I mentioned in that sermon, as we say yes to following Jesus, or at least think about following Jesus, either for the first time or continuing to follow Jesus, we got to think about that question. What are you looking for? What are you looking for in life? And what are you looking for in Jesus? And I don't just ask you those questions because Jesus did, and I just want to make a sermon point. I think that is a great self-reflection type question. What are you looking for? So that was the first sermon. The second sermon, we looked at how Jesus called Matthew and the tax collector and Peter, James, John, and Andrew, the fisherman. And the question I asked in the second sermon is, saying yes to Jesus means saying no to what? And then the third sermon, the question was, what's your excuse? If you look at the end of Luke chapter 9, Jesus seems like he's pretty harsh with these would-be disciples, is what we called them. And so they seem like they're making excuses. So the question I asked in that sermon is, what's your excuse? What excuse are we giving Jesus? Do we say the word, well, first let me go do this or that? Are we making excuses in our life? So those are the 3 questions in the sermon series so far. What are you looking for? What are you seeking? Saying yes to Jesus means saying no to what? And then what's your excuse? Those are great questions. The second 2, Jesus did not necessarily ask those questions, but I was able to draw that question from the text. So as we think about following Jesus, whether you've been a follower of Jesus for a long time, or maybe you're thinking about saying yes to following Jesus, these questions, I believe, are really important to reflect on, to see how serious you are when it comes to following Jesus. And I think what Jesus is calling are people that are serious, that are committed, and want to give their lives up to really following Christ. So there's my thought for you. In beautiful Vermont, I'm sitting here thinking about how important questions are in conversations, how important questions are in Jesus' life and teachings, and to pay attention in the Gospels when Jesus asks questions, and to think about these 3 questions that we've had in this sermon series so far, and there'll be more questions to come. Try to keep this not too long. I think I'm a little over 10 minutes right now. So we love everybody. Hope that you guys have a great week, and look forward to seeing you on Sunday.